Oh, here we go again. Another live TV disaster right from the heart of Parliament, and this time it's none other than Rachel Reeves, or as we lovingly call her here, Nelson, breaking down in floods of tears in front of the entire nation. And isn't it just absolutely pathetic to watch the woman who clawed her way into the Chancellor's chair now melting faster than a cheap ice cream in July? There she was, the so-called face of Britain's financial future, whimpering like a toddler who's dropped her lollipop. And let's be crystal clear, she wasn't elected to cry. She wasn't shoved into that chair to sob and sniffle her way through a national broadcast. No, she was promoted beyond her abilities. Overpromoted, like so many others, pushed into a job she clearly can't handle, simply because her gender ticked a few boxes on some diversity spreadsheet. This is exactly what happens when you confuse gender with competence. When you start promoting people, not because of what's in their brains, but what's in their knickers. And now here we are, with Nelson making a complete mockery of the office she holds, tears rolling down her cheeks on live television, and some people, some absolute dimwits, are actually feeling sorry for her. Are you joking? This woman lied on her CV. She stabbed everyone in her way to claw her way up, stepping on heads and tossing morals out the window just to sit in that big fancy chair. And now that it's time to actually do the job, suddenly she's in pieces. Suddenly she's the victim, crying about how tough it all is. And of course, the usual crowd, those dreary woke warriors and pathetic simps, are lining up to tell us how brave she is for showing her emotions, as if crying on live TV while being paid by the taxpayer is some sort of heroic act. Please, give me a break. This isn't some girls' night in with a tub of ice cream and a Bridget Jones movie. This is the House of Commons. This is where you're meant to stand up, show strength, and handle pressure. But no, not Nelson, not the overpromoted darling of the diversity brigade. Instead, we got a full-scale emotional meltdown broadcast live to millions. Embarrassing doesn't even begin to cover it. And of course, it gets better, doesn't it? Because Keir Starmer, oh yes, Sir Slippery himself, sat there next to her, nodding along like some bobblehead in a car window, watching his Chancellor fall apart on live TV and doing absolutely nothing. Nothing but sit there with that familiar look of spineless confusion plastered all over his face. You'd almost feel sorry for him if he wasn't just as useless. Here's the man who's meant to lead Britain into the future, sitting there with his hands in his lap, watching his right-hand woman crumble. But honestly, what else do you expect from a man who's performed more U-turns than a learner driver on a hill? Starmer's entire career is one long wobble from crisis to crisis. And this is his latest disaster, his finance minister melting down while the cameras roll. And what makes it even worse, if that's possible, is the sheer audacity of it all. Because these are the same people who tell us they're ready to lead, who tell us they're strong, capable, serious about reform and responsibility. And then they sit there crying about how hard it all is. It's pathetic, it's insulting, it's humiliating. Not just for them, but for every single taxpayer in this country who's expected to cough up more cash, while these absolute clowns make a mockery of Parliament. And yet somehow they expect us to keep quiet, to just watch it all unfold and say nothing. Not here, not today. This isn't just about one teary breakdown. It's about everything that's rotten in British politics right now. A system that rewards weakness, that promotes people not for their strength or intelligence, but for ticking fashionable boxes. A system where every tough decision is dodged because someone might cry or get offended. And meanwhile, hard-working Britons are paying the price, watching their leaders sob on live TV while they struggle to heat their homes. And honestly, it's disgusting. This wasn't a moment of honesty. It wasn't bravery. It was a televised disgrace. A bombshell meltdown that should end careers, not inspire sympathy. Rachel Reeves, Nelson, call her whatever you like, should be nowhere near government. She should be nowhere near the nation's finances. She has no place in Parliament, because if you can't keep it together under pressure, you have no business leading anything, let alone the economy of an entire nation. But it won't stop there, will it? Because you can already hear the media spin machines gearing up. The sob stories will be rolled out. Her struggles, her burdens, her personal journey, all the usual emotional fluff to distract from the fact that she's simply not up to the job. And Starmer, well, he'll sit there like he always does, spinning around in circles, nodding and deflecting and hoping no one notices just how much of a disaster his entire party has become. But we notice, we see it, and we're not buying it anymore. This Parliament meltdown is the perfect symbol of everything wrong with their so-called leadership. And if this country has even a shred of sense left, it should be the final nail in the coffin for both of them, Starmer and Nelson, the most embarrassing double act in modern British politics. Oh, but it gets worse, doesn't it? Because just when you think this circus can't sink any lower, here comes section 2 of the Starmer and Nelson disaster show, and it's even more pathetic than you imagined. Because after the live TV tears, after the dramatic Parliament meltdown, you'd think they'd have the decency to step back, resign, vanish into the shadows. But no, not these two. Instead, Nelson waltzes back into the media with that same tired look plastered all over her face, whimpering about how hard it is juggling the pressure of the job and her personal life, as if anyone cares. And Starmer, oh well, Sir Keir, the master of spineless leadership, the walking talking. U-turn himself, decides now is the perfect time to defend her. Oh yes, there he is, standing in front of the cameras, mumbling something about how we all need to show more empathy, more understanding, more compassion. As if this country isn't already drowning in fake compassion and bankrupt leadership. You couldn't make it up. This is the bloke who's meant to be running the country's opposition. The man who claims he's ready to fix Britain, ready to reform welfare, ready to control immigration, ready to stand up for working families. And what does he do when his finance minister embarrasses herself on live TV? He pats her on the head like a naughty schoolgirl and tells us all she's doing her best. Her best. Are you joking? Her best involved crying in the House of Commons. Her best involved whimpering on national television, while millions of taxpayers wonder where their money's gone. Her best involved lying on her CV, clawing her way to power, stabbing colleagues in the back, and then collapsing the moment it got tough, and we're meant to applaud this. We're meant to sit back and admire this pathetic display of weakness while our bills skyrocket and our taxes soar. No chance. Not here. Not today, because this isn't just one woman's emotional breakdown. It's a symbol, it's a flashing neon sign, screaming everything that's wrong with the current state of British politics. Weak, spineless leaders, who cry at the first sign of pressure, who blame everyone else for their failings, who can't separate their feelings from their duties, and expect us to keep paying for their disasters, and just listen to Starmer's pathetic excuses. He says, it's tough in politics, it's hard being in government really well. Maybe it wouldn't be so tough if you actually had a backbone. Maybe it wouldn't be so difficult if you stopped overpromoting people like Nelson, who clearly aren't up to the job. Maybe the reason politics feels like a disaster right now is because it's full of people like you, Sir Keir, full of liars, cowards and emotional wrecks, who think being soft is a strength. And newsflash, it's not. This country needs leaders, not weepers. It needs strong, decisive people who can handle pressure, who can make tough calls without bursting into tears on camera, who can separate their personal lives from their public responsibilities. And the fact we're even having this conversation shows just how far we've fallen, because now we have a Chancellor nicknamed Nelson, who thinks crying on TV makes her relatable, and a Labour leader who thinks it makes her brave. And both of them are running around acting like victims, while the rest of us are stuck footing the bill. And that's the real insult here. We are the ones paying for their salaries, their pensions, their second homes, their private drivers, their luxury perks. And in return, what do we get? Public meltdowns and pathetic excuses. We get bombshell scandals and no accountability. We get leaders who lie, cheat and stab their way to the top and then collapse. The moment the cameras start rolling and Starmer thinks we should all be proud of this. Proud of a government that's all tears and no action. Proud of a parliament that's become a national embarrassment. Proud of a political class that's more concerned about feelings than results. Well, sorry, Sir Keir, we're not proud, we're furious, we're disgusted, and we're done watching this freak show play out on live TV. If this is what Labour's leadership looks like, if this is their idea of strong, capable government, then God help us all, because they've proven once again they're nothing but a party of sobbing amateurs and spineless cowards, and it's time someone said it out loud and kept saying it until they're gone.